Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel Daysi DIY. Today I'm sharing with you guys an easy home decor. I hope you enjoy. If you do, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. Thank you so much. For the first project, I'm going to be using this small wood tray that I had on hand. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to remove the handles, and for that I'm just using this screwdriver set that I got from Dollar Tree. So once I remove the handle, the next thing I'm going to be using the Restore chalk paint on color white. So I'm gonna do one coat and I'm just gonna let it dry. You guys can see I covered my tray all the way, and once it was completely dry, the parts that it needs a little bit of more paint, I just painted. So once it's completely dry, I'm going to be using a small piece of sandpaper so we can distress it a little bit more. The next thing, I'm going to be using one image of the calendar that I found on Dollar Tree. So I just placed my image inside of the wood tray. I'm just going to mark it at the side that we need it so we can cut it with the scissors. So in the beginning, I was going to cut the letters, but I think they're really beautiful. I decided to just cut it all around. And please don't throw this piece of letters away because we will use it in another project. So the next thing, I want to do this technique. My friend Dorothy recommended me to do so it won't have that many wrinkles my image, and it works pretty amazing. I know I need to learn a little bit, but what I did, I just did one coat in the image, and once I was done, I did another coat on the top of the wood tray, and I just placed my image. And once I was done with my brush, I just tried to smooth the image a little bit, and it didn't have that many wrinkles. It works amazing. Thank you so much, Dorothy, for this great tip to put first the Mod Podge in the image. And once I was done, I decided to do another coat on Mod Podge on the top so we can seal that image. The next thing, I'm going to be using the Waverly anti-wax to distress it a little bit, and I'm just using a small piece of that bad sponge that I got from Dollar Tree. Also, I distressed the edges of the wood tray. So once we're done and we like it at the way that we distressed the wood tray, we're just going to put back again the handles. And this is how it looks, our wood tray once we're done. It turned out really beautiful. I love it. But please let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about this project? For the next project, I'm going to be using two pieces of wood that I had on hand, and to paint it, I'm using the Restore chalk paint on color white. I did one coat and I just let it dry, and to paint it, I'm just using this brush that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be doing two projects in the same piece of wood. So the next thing, I'm going to be using this gift tissue paper that I found on Dollar Tree. So I just cut a piece of the side of the small piece of wood. This is the first time that I'm going to use the paper tissue, and it was amazing working with my friend Sandra from the DIY at the Showing It Nest. She recommended to have just a little bit of Mod Podge under to put the piece of tissue paper, and with the same brush, make sure your brush it has a little bit of Mod Podge so you can smooth your paper so it won't have the many wrinkles. I will link it down below, the video that she has where she explained it very well. And also Yvonne at the Ginger Chick Rehab. She has done a wonderful video too that she shows a step by step how to use it. I will link it down for you guys. So on the other side, I just cut another piece of the tissue paper. I did the same step, and once I was done, I did another coat on Mod Podge on the top to seal everything. So the next thing, I'm gonna be using one wood stem, and I just cut it in half because it was a little bit bigger. So to glue it, I'm doing a combination of wood glue and hot glue. So once we place it, the next thing we're doing, we're gonna distress it a little bit, and for that I'm using the Waverly anti-wax, and I'm just using a small piece of that sponge to distress it the way that I want it. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a small bow to put it because it was missing something. So I just cut a few pieces of the burlap ribbon and also the lace ribbon and a piece of jute twine. So with the piece of jute twine, I just wrap it around a few times and I just tie it with my scissors. I just cut the remaining piece, and to glue this beautiful bow, I just used a little bit of hot glue, and I did the same step on the other side. And this is how it looks our project once we're done. These pumpkins, they turn out really beautiful. I love them. But please let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about this project? For the next project, I'm using one gathered sign that I found at Dollar Tree, and to paint it, I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalk paint on color white. I did one coat and I just let it dry. So you guys can see I didn't paint my sign all the way because I want the wood to show a little bit. So the next thing, I'm going to be using this piece of cardboard that I removed from a picture frame that I'm going to be reusing for this project. So to paint it, I'm using the Rust-Oleum chalk paint on color white. I did one coat and I just let it dry. So you guys can see I didn't cover it all the way because I want the color black to show a little bit, because we want to distress it a little bit, and that's the distress look that we're going for. So the next thing, we're going to create lines, and for that, my piece of cardboard, it measured 11 inches. So every 2 inches, I just mark the lines, and once I was done, I just connect my lines. And once we're done connecting all the lines with my finger, I'm just gonna start distressing the lines. Also, to distress it a little bit more, I'm using the Waverly anti-wax and just a little bit of paint, and I'm just using a small piece of this bad sponge, and I'm just gonna distress it at the way that I want it. And also, I decided to do the same step with the sign because it was missing something. I just used a little bit of the paint. In this video, you guys gonna see a lot of distress. I'm using a few paints, but just wait for the end result because it turned out really beautiful. So the next thing, I'm using the Waverly chalk paint on color moss, and I'm just gonna use a little bit of the paint. So once it's completely dry, we're using the Rust-Oleum chalk paint on color white to distress it a little bit more on the top because we want the letters to show a little bit more. more. And also every time that I put a different paint, I just did the edges too so it can has a finished look. And this is the sign that I'm going to reuse. So what I did, I used the Waverly anti-wax to distress it a little bit more because it was just like white, so I wanted to distress it a little bit more. So you guys can see this black part that it had the frame. I didn't like it and I was trying to paint it, but I couldn't cover it all the way with the paint, and I just tried to remove the piece. So it turned out that we can remove it, so I just removed those parts and I just decided to paint this part with the same paint, the Restore chalk paint, so it can has a finished look because the color that it had under, I didn't like it. Once we're done, I just put my frame all together. I also used the glass because it came with the glass and everything, so I just put everything together. So I couldn't decide what way should I put my sign, to put it this way or should I put it this way. To glue it, I'm just gonna use hot glue, but if you guys want a strong hold, you guys can use wood glue or E6000. And this is how it looks our project once we're done. It turned out really beautiful. I love it. I love all the colors, how they blend all together. But please let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about this project? For the next project, I'm going to be using this kind of holder that I got from the Dollar Tree. It was the first time that I saw these beautiful kind of holders. I think they're really beautiful. So we're just going to be using the base. We're not going to do nothing to the other part of the kind of holder. We're just going to leave it at the same color. So to paint the base, I'm using the Restore chalk paint in color white. I didn't want to cover it all the way because I want the color gray to show a little bit. So I just did one coat and I just let it dry. Also, I decided to paint the bottom part so it can has a finished look. So the next thing, I'm going to be using this beautiful pumpkin. I'm not sure if it's from Dollar Tree or it's from at Homes. I'm not sure. I had it for a really long time. So to paint it, I'm using the same paint and I didn't want to cover it all the way because I want the color to show a little bit. So once I was done, I decided to create another beautiful small bow. I just used the burlap ribbon and also a few pieces of the lace ribbon, and with a small piece of jute twine, I just wrap it around a few times and I just tie it very well. And with the remaining piece, I just use my scissors to cut it. So I just decided to remove this raffia bow because I want to put it in the middle of this beautiful bow that we just create. And to glue it, I just use a little bit of hot glue. And once we're done, we're just going to put our beautiful base together and the pumpkin inside. I think this turned out really beautiful, but right now that I see on the video, I think it will look really beautiful if I paint the letter 8 on color gold and also this beautiful like design that it had on the side. What do you guys think? Should I paint the letters in the part of the pumpkin so it can blend a little bit more, or do you guys like it just the way it is? Please let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about the project? For the next project, I'm going to be using the other side of the small wood tray, and to paint it, I used the Restore chalk paint. I did one coat and I just let it dry. So the next thing, I'm going to be using 3 wood pumpkins that I had. They're from Dollar Tree, and to paint it, I'm using the same paint. I did one coat and I just let it dry. I didn't want to cover the pumpkins all the way because I want the wood to show a little little bit so we can give this distressed look that we're going for. So I did the same step with the 3 pumpkins. So the next thing, to distress it a little bit more, we're using the Waverly anti-wax, and I just used a little bit of paint. On the first pumpkin, I went a little bit heavy on the paint, but trust me, it turned out amazing because once we put the other paint, they're gonna look just beautiful. So the next paint, we're using the Waverly chalk paint on color moss, and to put the paint, I'm using a brush because I want to give this different distressed look. So I just used a little bit of paint, and I did the same step with my other 2 pumpkins, and I just let it dry. And once they're completely dry, I went over again with the same Restylane chalk paint on color white so we can distress it a little bit more. We did a lot of distress in these pumpkins, but they turned out really beautiful. I hope you guys have a little bit of patience to see all the distress that we put in the pumpkin. So once we're done and they're completely dry, with the same paint, I just grabbed a small brush to give this detail of the pumpkin. So once we're done, we're going to create lines on the back of the wood tray. I just create 3 lines, and with my finger I just distress the lines. So here is the part where I'm going to show you that we're going to be reusing the remaining part of the calendar. So I just did 1 coat on Mod Podge in the image first, and once I was done, I just did another coat of Mod Podge on the wood tray, and we just placed our beautiful letters on the top. With the same brush, I just tried to smooth the letters so it won't have any wrinkles. I just did another coat on Mod Podge on the top so we can seal the letters. And once we're done, we're just going to place our 3 beautiful pumpkins this way. So to give this 3D effect, I decided to use a few pieces of the craft sticks. If you guys want, you guys can use a piece of jingle block, and I think it will look really beautiful too. So to glue our pumpkins, I just use hot glue, but if you guys want a strong hold, you guys can use wood glue. So the next thing, I just use a small piece of the burlap ribbon, and I measured 2.5 inches. I just want to show you how I create the small bows, just in case if you guys want to recreate it. With my scissor, I just cut it because it was a little bit bigger, the burlap ribbon. So I didn't have any other ribbon that I liked for these pumpkins. And also I cut a few pieces of the black ribbon, 2 pieces of the jute twine, and with another piece of jute twine, I just tied everything very well, and I just cut the remaining piece. So once we're done, we're just gonna glue our beautiful bows to put it right here on the top of the pumpkins, and I just used a little bit of hot glue. It was missing these beautiful bows so they can have this beautiful look. Also, I just want to mention, if you guys don't have this wood tray, that you guys can use just a wood sign from the Dollar Tree, and it's really easy to recreate this beautiful project because everything that I used, it was from Dollar Tree. And this is how it looks, our project once we're done. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about this project? For the next project, I'm going to be using this piece of wood. It was from the toy section. So to paint it, I'm using the Restylane chalk paint on color white. I did 1 coat and I just let it dry. Also, on the other side, I decided to cover the holes because I didn't like it. So I just used a little bit of the sparkling to cover it. You guys can do it before you guys paint it. I'm going to be using these beautiful small pumpkins. I got it from Dollar Dollar Tree. I'm gonna be using only 2, and also I'm using this clip paper and color orange that I had. So I just cut a few pieces to create these beautiful stems for the pumpkins. If you guys want, you guys can use a small piece of the wooden doll. I think they will look really beautiful too, but I decided to use this clip. So once we put it this way, I'm just gonna use a little bit of hot glue to glue it. Once we were done, I decided to paint it. I think it's better to paint the pumpkins before you glue it. I struggle a little bit because on the edges of the pumpkin, it was kind of hard to paint it, but I just used a small brush. But I will recommend it to paint first the pumpkins and just let it dry, and once they're completely dry, like just glue it. So the next thing, we're going to be using these stickers, and I'm just going to be spelling the word all. So once we put the letters, we're going to put 1 coat on Mod Podge on the top of the letters so we can seal the letters, and we're just going to let it dry. So I'm going to show you this part that I decided to distress the letters a little bit, but I didn't like it in the end. I removed the paint. So if you guys like it, do this step. It didn't show very well the letters. So to distress the sign a little bit, I just used the Waverly anti-wax, and I just distress also the pumpkin so they can blend everything together. Also, I'm going to be using these rub-on stickers that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to be cutting a few pieces. So I just rub on with my finger, and once I was done, I just peeled off that clear plastic from the top. I decided to put another few pieces like these beautiful flowers, and I did the same step on the other side. I'm going to be using a small piece of this ribbon, and I just cut it in half because it was a little bit bigger to create a small bow to put it on the pumpkin. If you guys want, you guys can use that lighter so it won't frame your ribbon, but I just use that lighter once I create the bow, and it worked just perfect. So once we're done creating the bows, we're just gonna use a little bit of hot glue to glue it. Also, I decided to do 1 coat of Mod Podge on the top of the sticker so we can seal it very well. And here's the part where I show you that I decided to use again the paint because, like I mentioned, on the edges you can see the color orange of the pumpkin, and I didn't like it. And here is the part where I show you that I removed the paint. It was easy to remove because we did 1 coat of Mod Podge on the top. So once I removed the paint, I did another coat of Mod Podge. So for the other side, I'm going to be using this beautiful pumpkin that I had on hand, and also these wood letters that I got from Dollar Tree, and 1 small piece of the wooden dowel to put it right here in the top. And to paint it, I'm using the Craftwise chalkboard paint, and I just did 1 coat and I just let it dry. Also, I decided to paint the back of the letters so they can have a finished look. So once they're completely dry, I just use a small piece of that sandpaper to distress it a little bit, and also I use the Restylane chalk paint, and with this brush I just use a little bit of paint to distress it. It gives this distressed look so beautiful to the letters. So once we're done, we're just gonna glue everything together, and I just use a little bit of hot glue to glue it. If you guys want a strong hold, you guys can use wood glue. With the same brush, I decide to distress the sign a little bit, and I just distress it at the way that I want it. Also, I decided to use a few pieces of the rub-on transfer stickers to put it on the top of the small pumpkin. It was missing something, so I decided to put just a few pieces. And once I was done, also I decided to use 1 coat of Mod Podge so we can seal the sticker. And this is how it looks our project once we're done. It turned out really beautiful. I love it. And let me show you how it looks from the other side. And this is how it looks. It looks really adorable too, but please let me know what do you guys think. For the next project, I'm going to be using the other piece of wood, and I'm just using another piece of the tissue paper, and I just cut it at the side that we need it. And I just did one cut on my Podge, and I just placed the tissue paper on the top. And with my brush, I just use it to smooth a little bit of paper so it won't have any wrinkles. Once I was done, I did another cut on my Podge on the top so we can seal everything. On the other side, I'm going to do the same step. I just used another piece of the tissue paper. It's like marble. In the video, it doesn't show very well the marble paper, but in person, it's really beautiful. So I just did one cut on my Podge, and I just placed the tissue paper. And once I was done, I did another cut on my Podge on the top so we can seal everything. I'm going to be using one wood stem. I didn't cut it because it was just the perfect size for the piece of wood. So I just used wood glue and hot glue for a strong hold. And once I was done, I decided to distress it a little bit. And for that, I just used the Waverly anti-wax, and I just used a little bit of paint. I just create two beautiful bows to put it, and I just show you how I create these beautiful bows. And to glue it, I just use a little bit of hot glue. And this is how it looks our project once we're done. They turned out really beautiful, the pumpkins, but please let me know what you guys think. From all the projects that I create today, which one it was your favorite? So that was it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified every time that I upload new video. And please don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much and have an amazing day.